Hello, I'm Scott Brady with Overland Journal and Expedition Portal, and I am here with our Overland Journal Publisher's Project vehicle. A few years ago, I decided I wanted a replacement for my long-term G-Wagon project, and I looked at all of the vehicles on the market, and I knew I wanted to try another Toyota platform, so I considered the Land Cruisers and of all of the different years. But I ultimately settled on a 2007 GX470. These vehicles are very affordable for what you get. They're built on a J-Series platform, which is a really important designation from within Toyota, which means this would be called the Land Cruiser 2 or the Prado in other markets. So it comes with a 4.7-liter V8, which has more than enough power for the size of the vehicle. It's 7-passenger, which even though I don't intend to carry 7 people, the fact that it's 7-passenger gives me a much higher payload rating. So this vehicle comes at around 1,500 pounds of payload. And there's some other things that I really like about this vehicle as well. It has a long travel 5-link airbag rear suspension system. It has a very heavy-duty frame, body-on-frame configuration, and there's lots of aftermarket support for the vehicle as well. And at the end of the day, you're also buying a Lexus, and you get the quality and the durability and the reliability that comes from that kind of purchase. So far I've been really happy with the vehicle. Overall, it's done everything that I've asked from it. I've never had a single issue that I had to take it into a mechanic for because it let me down. So I got all of that benefit of the Lexus platform. Very positive vehicle on the whole. So let's talk about the modifications that I did kind of from front to back. In the very front of the vehicle, I removed the plastic bumper and I installed a proper ARB bull bar, which is really important when you consider animal strikes and other trail damage that may occur during our journeys. It also gives me the opportunity to fit a Warn 10S, which is a synthetic line, high-performance Warn winch. It still has a plug-in controller, which I really prefer. And then it also gave the opportunity to fit these ARB Solus lights. Now, these are high-performance LEDs, so low amperage draw, but a lot of coverage when we're going down the trail or the road. And I also configured it in the classic Aussie style, which means on the driver's side, I have a spot beam, and on the passenger side, I have a wide driving pattern that illuminates more of the side of the road for animals that could be coming across. This vehicle is relatively low when you compare it with maybe a high clearance 4-wheel drive. So I wanted to have good protection from the front all the way to the midline of the vehicle. So for that, I installed these ARB steel stamped and reinforced skid plates. And they run not only in the front, which protects the lower hanging components of the oil lines and radiator, etc., but it also protects the steering system and the front differential. From there, the skid plates continue to go back, covering all of the transmission pan, and then all the way back to a small skid plate for the transfer case as well. One of the most important things that we can do with our overland vehicles is to fit it with the right kind of suspension, and that's because we're looking for long distance durability and adjusting the spring rates to accommodate for our load. And in this case, I went with the new BP51 suspension system from ARB Old Man Emu. Now these are high performance shock absorbers. In the front, it's a coil over configuration with a 2.5-inch body, aluminum with good protection for corrosion. And then it has a couple notable performance features. Most adjustable shocks just adjust for compression. This one adjusts for compression and rebound. And then as a very unique feature, it has internal bypass. And what that allows is a very soft, comfortable ride in the mid-range. But if you have a large event, like crossing through a washout, then those journals change and the amount of fluid that can flow through the shock changes where it's at in the shock stroke. So that's a very unique feature of the BP51 and is something that is not generally available in mass consumer suspensions. So that's the reason why I picked the BP51 for this particular vehicle. In the rear, I went with their remote reservoir BP51 shocks as well, which also has the benefit of compression, rebound control, and adjustment, as well as internal bypass. And because I use this vehicle for daily driving duties and even pulling a trailer or a boat or any of those kinds of things, I wanted a maximum flexibility out of the rear suspension. So I elected to retain the factory airbags. Now, one of the problems with that is you need to adjust for the new height that I got from the lift and the front coilovers. So I installed spacers, 2-inch spacers on top of the airbags that brought it back into that operating range. And then I made some minor adjustments within the adjustment rods that are available from the factory. Airbags do have some downside with long-term durability. They can leak or have failures on the trail. So I do keep that in mind. So I went with fresh airbags and I made sure that the system was in top-notch condition as well. But now I'm able to lower the rear for loading up equipment. I'm also able to raise the rear in certain off-road conditions to help with that longer departure. And in addition to that, I wanted to be able to get off the trail if I had an airbag failure. With these large diameter tires, once it goes down to the factory bump stops, it's actually rubbing on the inner fender liner. So in order to do that, I went with the Timbren jounces. I installed those in the front and in the rear. They're also taller, so that way if you do have an airbag failure, you can actually get off the trail just on the Timbren jounces. The thing I like about those Timbren units is that they're progressive. So if you have a large event, they really help decelerate the compression under those conditions. I've been really happy with those Timbren units, and it's really good to see them available on the market. And one of the most important modifications that we make to a vehicle is tires, because we're looking to improve traction and gain some additional ground clearance and flotation for technical terrain. And on this particular vehicle, I am testing out these new Toyo AT3s. It's a tire I hadn't used before. It's new to the market, and so far it's done well. There's a few things I like about it. It's got heavy siping on the tread face. It has a fairly close AT pattern, but I'm getting fairly soft durometer out of it, which means I'm getting great grip on sandstone and conditions like you'd experience in Moab or where we've been driving in Sedona. I've also got really good performance out of it on wet roads and on icy and snowy roads as well. And the diameter that I chose, or the size that I chose, is a 255/80 R17, which is quite tall, over 33 inches in diameter and about 10.5 inches wide. So it fits perfectly up into the factory wheel wells, even under full compression. And then I tried something new as well. There's a new wheel from American Expedition Vehicles called the Crestone. It's a very unique wheel in the fact that it's a DOT approved beadlock, and you can run it in a non-beadlock configuration with a cosmetic trim ring, or you can run it like I've done it, which is as a true beadlock. So it has a beadlock ring that you can purchase separately so that it completely captures that outside bead, which is extremely important in very deep snow, so that I can run in the single digits on pressure, and also in sand dunes, conditions where I need maximum flotation. I do use it for lower pressure on the rocks, but in this case, with this particular vehicle, it's not a rock crawler. But I do gain a lot of performance with these wheels when I'm in the sand and in the snow. So one of the last modifications that I did was to install this ACC Garage Becky spare tire mount. It's a way to get the tire out from underneath the vehicle, especially when you go with a larger tire. They can be difficult to fit in the stock location. I've also gained ground clearance by it not being under there anymore. And it also makes it really easy to access the tire in muddy conditions. If you have a flat and you need to swap it out, it's right there on the back of the vehicle. I also think it really does a lot to change the appearance of the GX. I think it really helps to make it look a little more trail-worthy, if you will. But I really like it. I like how it looks on the vehicle, and it's a very robust kit, how it uses the structure of the door, and there's even a striker plate that holds some of the weight as well. And then the last thing that I did in the back is I got a couple of the trailed off-road 6-gallon water tanks. Now they're the same diameter as the stock tire, and they go up underneath the vehicle using the tire lifting winch, and you can go with 2 or 3 of those. Obviously outside of the United States, when you're not under EPA regulations, you could use those for fuel as well. So a big advantage for long distance travel. Overall, this has been a great project. I've been really impressed with the GX. I think it's a very suitable platform for most families and people that are new to overlanding, or even the seasoned traveler that's looking for something with a lot of capability, comfort, and longevity.